Hello everyone, it's the Old Pro coming to you from the upstate of South Carolina today, mid-March 2023, where I got to play golf today at Musgrove Mill, hosted by Jeffrey Tallman, longtime director of golf here, 27 years. And I called my old buddy up, Joe McGee, the original caddy master at Secession. We got a lot of stories. He's a Clinton boy, which is where we are, Clinton, South Carolina. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to get these boys on a little bit of a video, tell some stories, drink a little wine, and
or Budweiser.
Or Budweiser. You were known for Budweiser, weren't you? And we just finished a delightful day. We're just sitting around telling stories, and that's what I want to do, is just continue to tell those stories. Thanks to Bill Boykin and Hindsight Wines, of course, as always. They take good care of the Old Pro. Delightful boys.
Cheers.
Great to have you.
Thank you for
Jeffrey.
coming. Joe, great seeing you.
It was pretty much a bunch of like 5-6 handicappers.
It was close. I mean,
Or 10 or 12.
you know,
For those that don't know, Musgrove Mill has been in the top 20 in South Carolina forever. Always ranked in the top modern golf courses. It's a very, very good golf course. At Palmer, our old friend Ken Tomlinson, who passed away, who I used to travel a good bit with, and who I thoroughly enjoyed, who passed away last year.
Yeah.
Was involved with this one. We're in one of the cottages where it's a regional club for the most part, under the McConnell banner.
correct.
Jeffrey can elaborate on that in a little bit, and but it's just a delightful golf course, and we had a perfect day to play. It's been cold, it's snowing like crazy when I left the mountains 2 days ago, and we stole one today.
Wow.
Bright sunshine. It's even cloudy now, so we caught the cream of the day. But I just wanted to, why don't you elaborate a little bit more about McConnell? We were talking about they own 15 or 20 golf courses.
Yeah,
now.
it's 15 golf courses now, all the way from Virginia to Knoxville, Tennessee, to Pawleys Island, so all in the southeast for the most part. And McConnell Golf purchased Musgrove in 2007. So we've been with them for about 13 years, and it's such a great company, good people at the top, the middle, the bottom.
Always hear that.
It's a people business, and with the members that we've had, and the COVID influence of people that were on the fence prior to COVID, that jumped off the fence and joined clubs. Right. They have really we have waiting lists at 3 or 4 of our clubs that are in Charlotte and Raleigh.
And the network itself, you said, it's like 8,000 members.
The network is 7,600 members through the southeast, which they can use all 15 clubs, which is a great concept and a great membership. Good people, treating good people.
And they've kept that. They've kept the identity of each club.
Each club
in
operates.
their own way.
Yeah, each club operates still independently with McConnell at the top, and it's a good business model. Nice. It's a great business model.
And Jeffrey used to come, or still comes to the pro member. At Secession, where we've had him down for 20 years or so at least. We've grown old and long in the tooth. They're playing. You're playing with Ralphie most of the time.
I play with Ralphie most of the time, and one short little story about Ralphie and I down there. I mean, we played for probably 5 or 6 years, and I think it was the 4th year or the 5th year that we were playing down there. My wife was pregnant, and so I told Ralph, I said, I'm coming down. I said, but if I get a call, I may have to head home. And so we're down there after I think it was after the first round, and we're eating dinner in the clubhouse. And somebody comes into the club and they said, is Jeff Tallman here? Is Jeff Tallman here? And I'm like, uh-oh. So I get on the phone, and my wife's going to the hospital. And so I told Ralphie, I'd probably had a couple glasses of wine at dinner, and I said, I'm going to have to get in the car and go home. This was like about 10 o'clock at night. And so So I drove, you know what that drive is,
That
Joe.
drive.
So I drove from Secession to Greenville Memorial Hospital, and my daughter, as she does, she waited for me. She was born the next morning at 8:30 in the morning.
Nice.
And Ralphie had to take it on himself that last day.
He could do that.
He can handle
He
it.
could do that. He probably. This is Ralph Ireland,
Right.
multiple club champion at the course, and he probably held his own. He probably finished midfield.
I'm sure he probably finished better without me, because the next couple years after I didn't go down there and play, he played with Catfish or played with Eric, and then they won it.
And then they
So
won.
I never got invited back, you know.
Look, you can't let Ralph go by without saying that I
yeah.
doubt he can play a round of golf under 4 hours by himself.
I doubt it.
The
takes
slug,
some time.
the human slug.
He's a good one.
What a great
He
guy.
is a good one. And Joe, you were there at the club in the earliest of days.
I saw them all.
The trailers, Joe
My
was.
neighbor, who's my neighbor now, built that caddy shack.
That's right. That's right.
David Pryor
That's
built
exactly
the
right.
caddy
I do
shack.
remember that.
Billy was the foreman.
Billy Robinson.
Robinson was the foreman.
Nice.
Yeah,
I
you
still
remember
see Billy.
I
I
saw him not. Well, I saw him at Secession.
He's doing okay.
Yeah.
Still in Savannah. I mean, those days, for those not familiar with Secession, we were open 5 years before the clubhouse opened.
Yeah.
We were in the caddy shack, and Joe used to flip burgers on Sunday. That was absolutely legendary stuff
Oh,
there.
they
People
love them
loved
burgers.
that.
Oh, they love
And,
them. Winn-Dixie burger meat.
Yeah.
There you
And
go.
we go into, you just sat on coolers of beer, and we had a few chairs. We had Alvinor
During
deli
the week.
sandwiches delivered, and
Yeah.
if you were playing at 8 and you were through by 12, old Franklin Newell and you and I, we probably made
Frankie.
5,000 runs across the bridge to
A
that
day.
deli.
A day.
And that's what I remember when I was working at Westlake Country Club, and Dave Spencer and Steven Spencer and myself came up and played.
Yeah.
I mean, that was all that was there, was the caddy shack, a cooler of beer, a cooler of sodas, and the sandwiches, and that was special.
And there might have
That was
been a
very
bottle
special.
of liquor in the back of the car.
There could have been.
Somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
There could have
Well,
been.
and we were talking about this at lunch. There's just something wonderful about the simplicity of that. And we talk about that a good bit on a lot of the conversations that I have with people around the country. We really do miss it sometimes. We just really miss it. We try to major on the minors when really what's most important, as you said, is the camaraderie, the fellowship, the interactions. There were tons of people, and Joe knows this, that didn't want to move into the clubhouse. They wanted to keep it right there.
Stay right
They didn't
there.
care if you nailed a nail in the wall and you hung your slacks off of it. However, I was always quick to point out that you didn't like that portable toilet.
There you go. That's right.
The portable toilet.
Yeah.
It was 100 degrees outside.
Well, there's one in the trailer, so you can always go to the trailer.
That was terrible. Yeah, that was right by my office.
Yeah, John Davis had it made. He had the luxury building, didn't he?
He had the building.
Yeah.
They built it. But you look back on great clubs. They protect that element, and it's up to you and the McConnells to protect this one. It has its own vibe. It has its own feel. It doesn't need to be an end all for everything. It is what it is. It succeeded because of what it is. We succeeded because of what it is. Joe is now almost 20 years at Spring Island, which is a completely different animal, but still very simple. It's a high-end residential with big lots and a very, very, very private
But the people
membership.
want it simple.
They want it simple.
They want it simple.
And we chase dollars for one.
Sure.
That's I've always said, you take care of the members, the money will take care of itself.
That's right. And
But if you start chasing money, you often miss it with the member. And
you lose what we're in the business for
Right.
as people. I mean, we're in it for people and creating relationships, and when you treat someone like you want to be treated, it comes back twofold to you.
it does.
Well, look at Mike.
Right.
Everybody that loves Mike is because of the simplicity he had at Secession Golf Club.
Right. Right.
Well, and I learned from the best, perhaps, Mr. Ransom. We'll
Well,
talk about that today.
One of the best man's ever lived.
Ernie Ransom, just
loved
around
him.
Pine Valley, was just
A hoot.
just a brilliant man, but he understood, even at Pine Valley, number one club in the world, or bounces back and forth between Cypress and Augusta, but easily in the top 3 in the world every year.
Right.
He kept it simple. It grew almost out of control to some degree because it was number one, and that's understandable. Cypress has maintained that incredible simplicity. There's nothing, it has that magnificent warmth, but yet still very simple. Hard to be Augusta and be simple.
Right.
But Pine Valley, they had to fight to keep that as best they could, and he held on to that, and Charlie's carried that on in his place. But we got to sit at his feet and listen to that. I was telling Joe when we were riding around, Mr. Ransom said once that the finest word in the English language is one of the shortest. No.
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 Which is always hard for a golf pro to say.
And it's very politically difficult. You can get in trouble
Exactly.
saying no. You better know how to say no. That's they could teach a class at that in PGA school.
Sure they could.
How do you say no? How do you tell Mr. So-and-so that he's slow?
Right.
And you got to pick it up. You can't just hammer him over the head, nor can you be too light about it. That's very difficult. But we got to sit at Ernie's feet for a couple of decades,
Right.
Because he was involved with Secession very early.
And I think that's what it takes. Is it takes time and it takes credibility to be able to have that conversation with people. And once you've kind of been through that and you're at a place for a period of time, you've developed a reputation, and if you do that, then that becomes easier to follow or to have conversations with members for the right reason.
You're on good footing to do that,
Right.
And that's hard for a young pro. That's the problem for young pros, isn't it?
And it's getting worse every day if you get right down to it. Unfortunately, I don't know that the PGA is teaching these young pros exactly what they need to be taught. The PGM programs might be a little bit too much business-wise instead of people-wise.
Yeah. Well, I think they hope they get that under their apprentice time.
Well, see, I
But
think
that's
the
not
problem.
always the case.
Who does any apprentices anymore, though? Hardly any, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have them under our wing for a little bit of time.
But not long.
No.
I'm seeing more and more that being a problem in the golf business.
All right.
And not being able to hire anybody.
Let's segue into that. I wanted to get your opinions on the game today. What do you see? We touched a little bit on, which is really one of the burrs in my saddle, the live and the reconstruction of the PGA Tour, this will be the first interview I've done since they announced last week that restructure down to 70.
Right.
I think that's just a piece of crap. But talk about not only that element, talk about the club and what you see. You guys I'm out of it now, but you guys are talking about the employees. Finding employees is almost impossible. And if you do, you may only have them for a year, and then they jump to something else. And talk about that, Jeffrey.
One thing that we try to do is, an important thing with staff and is retention. I mean, retention, and we have had some good retention of employees. I mean, our superintendent's been here for 36 years. I've been here for 27 years, and it is, you gotta do what you preach, but to keep kids nowadays and teach them and give them that prosperity or that feeling of I'm happy doing this stuff. Money is not the only reason. Money is not a reason, but it seems like we've come to that point where money is the only reason that they're out here. And if we can teach them that doesn't sustain itself for so long, that you still have to be able to get along with people.
Correct.
I totally agree with that. Nobody's wanting to pay anybody anything. we're getting, I'm not saying this in a bad way, because most of the guys there are wonderful guys. They're coming from Sun City, and we're paying them $12 an hour.
Right.
I mean, they're great people.
Well, that's changing to
Golf
some degree.
knowledge?
The payment, you're having to jack the prices
Sure.
up just to
Yeah.
get people to work.
Cool.
I mean, that, also, I keep hearing about, they don't wanna work 50, 60 hours.
Correct.
You know,
No,
but
three
HR
days.
programs are coming in and saying, you can't work them 50 or 60 hours, you can only work them 40
40
hours. You know, I mean, that's a complete reversal
From
of
what-
how we grew up.
200 years of our business.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And
You were
that's-
there when the sun came up, and you left when the sun went down.
And you did that in order to get into the position where you were leading, and you brought the other ones along
Exactly.
in a similar way.
Right.
It's discouraging to me to hear this from so many professionals, and you guys are still in it, and
Right.
you're dealing now. Here we were talking about Joe's down in Hilton Head, the Hilton Head area. There's a lot of people down there. Not a lot of people up here
Right.
in Clinton. This is a remote getaway spot. That's got to be even harder.
It is. It's tough, and you know the kids that we do get in are good kids. They start out, you know, in high school.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Presbyterian College here, so we get some of those kids.
Right.
And you know this business that we're in, I think you either have a taste for it. I don't think you can acquire a taste for it. It's a lifestyle. It's not a business.
You gotta
it's
wanna
a
do it.
lifestyle that you, because of the game of golf, which is the greatest game ever invented, I feel.
I agree.
That
Yeah.
everything that goes along with it, it just you either love it, but if you don't love it, you can't acquire a taste for it.
And that's
So
the
it
key
makes it
word, I
hard.
think, love.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
Exactly.
hundreds of years
Yeah.
of professionals that have come along bypassing opportunities to make bigger money with investment firms,
Exactly.
insurance, banks, whatever. They bypassed that
Right.
because they love the game and they just couldn't believe, they couldn't see themselves not around the game.
Exactly.
And a young kid looking to get into the business that didn't play necessarily, who thinks it's a good lifestyle, he can't shake out in this business.
Right.
I don't think there's any way that shakes out.
No, I don't think you
Totally
can
agree.
acquire a taste for this business. It's either in your soul, it's in your body, it's a part of you. And you know, I've over the last 3 years, I know of 3 golf professionals that got out of the business to make money, and it was a blue sky out there. And it wasn't a year later they got back into
They're
the
back in there.
They're back into the business.
Good story.
back into the business. And these are you know guys that are between 50 and 60,
Right.
you know,
Right.
or right at the end of 40.
Right.
And they're happier today that they're back in the business, even though, you know, they're not making the millions of dollars.
Exactly.
Right. Well, that's not it. We
Right.
know that. I mean,
Right.
you know, having big money does help in certain circumstances, but it doesn't make you happy.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's where the PGA really just has to center in on these guys going into our business need
But-
to have that love for the game. And I don't know how you wean that out
Well,
in that situation.
I think Jeff hit it on the head. You get younger kids that love golf, and you mentor them
Just
like
bring
you
them
know,
along.
yeah, the way they used to. I mean,
We certainly saw our share of kids.
yeah, for sure.
And, I mean, you were at Harbortown.
Yeah.
That was a big
Oh,
job, and
big time.
and that was, you know, you saw all sorts of bodies there.
We
Ours
had-
at Secession were pretty
You
small.
know, we
group.
had the first group of Fair State, the PGM.
yeah.
We had the first
yeah.
group of PGM
Yeah.
guys
Right, right,
at Harbortown from Fair
They
State.
graduated, right.
Back then, hell, that's been how long ago? That's been 40, not 40, but 30 years
Close.
ago. They were great.
Yeah.
They wanted to be golf pros.
Right.
These kids now, I'm saying from the PGA,
Even from PGM programs.
even from the PGM,
That's not-
all
that
they want to
makes
do
sense.
is
Yeah.
just look at their telephone and look at that computer, and
And when it's 5 o'clock, I'm
they
out.
want to go home,
Right.
or even before that.
Right.
Can you close for me? I gotta go.
Right.
You know, nobody wants to work.
Or I would take Friday and Saturday off to go to a football game.
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
I mean, I can't imagine what Brendan Walsh or Bobby Ford would say to that
Exactly.
guy.
Sure.
You know, yeah. Sure.
And
Yeah.
I mean, Jeff probably had 3 weekends off in how many years you been here? 27.
27.
Three
Yeah.
3 weekends off probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lifestyle.
It's it.
It's a lifestyle, and you know, and
Good and bad.
and
Yeah,
even
no.
and even
It has good
you
and
know,
bad.
even my wife. I mean, her dad and brother were in the golf business. My wife was a good player, and you know, there's got to be that knowledge and that verbiage between you and your wife to be able to do what we do. There's a lot of give and take
Right.
in both areas, and she already knew about it, but it was still hard at times that you had to talk through things and do that, because you know I wasn't home on a Saturday, or I wasn't home on a Sunday, and or I didn't get home till 11 o'clock at night, and those types of things.
It's a real concern. The PGA is going to have to pay close attention to this. Tell me your views on the tour, like we were talking about today. This commitment down, this cut down to 70 players.
I think the tour's getting stronger personally. I think the lift tour's getting weak. I don't think they're playing enough golf.
Probably.
Is
We'll
what
see
I
you
think.
next
I
week.
think their games are going down.
We'll see you next week at Augusta. That'll be the
I
first
think
kind of
you're gonna see
showcase.
I think it's definitely the quality of their play is
I
going
think
down.
so too.
I was surprised to see Dustin Johnson there. Look, he put on 30 pounds.
Did he really? I hadn't seen him.
I was
Same
surprised.
here,
I saw him. I saw him in he was on a range.
Okay.
I was kind of surprised. But I mean, I miss seeing him.
Right.
You know, the guys that went. I think he was the one I enjoyed the most. He just had that swagger, and he did things that.
And South Carolina.
And yeah,
Oh, yeah.
grew up on the beach over there. Tell what's your take, Jeffrey, on the 70 players?
Well, I think, you know, I don't think it's the right way to go, because, and my reason is, I mean, look at March Madness that just happened. You know, you got Fairleigh Dickinson beating the #1 team in the country, Purdue, and there's not a better feeling or better chance of the underdog. I mean, America roots for the underdogs.
Exactly.
You know, if you get too much sunshine, it's a desert. You know, too much sunshine makes a desert. So, you know, to see those guys all the time and there's nobody being able to break in, I think the PGA Tour for the past 10 years has done a great job of mentoring these players and breaking them in from the Corn Ferry to get out to the tour.
I agree.
And now they're going to take
Now
it
they're
away
pulling it
from
away.
them. Now they're pulling it away from them.
Exactly.
So I don't agree with it, because I mean, people like upsets.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, the
just
kid
as-
that won this week.
the kid that won the weekend,
Moore.
and Adam Shank, who was
Right.
you know in the top
Right
two,
there.
and then you got Moore, and I think that's exciting for people.
I think that's a closed shop.
Right.
I think that's a closed shop, but that's what they're creating. They think it'll generate more TV revenue, so I don't know that it will. How many people watched Live this week?
I've
You
never
know,
watched
it.
it.
was parallel to it. It was on the same
Well,
time.
I haven't watched
I
it
didn't
either.
flip it. I never go over to it. But you have these young guys coming along, as you say, they've created a system to get them out there, and it's almost like, well, we don't want those.
Right.
Well, now we don't want that competition, which doesn't make sense. That's why I didn't like to Live. Why would you go play against the same 30, 40 people every week? That doesn't make
Well,
any
it goes
sense.
right. It goes right back to what we were talking about earlier. It's not all about money. It's not all about money.
Yeah.
All these things are going because of money. You know, because of you know, LIV, PGA doing this,
Yeah.
and then you know you look at NIL money, and everything right now in this day and time in the world is about money. But money is not what makes people happy in the end.
And those boys weren't on food stamps when they
No.
left for the Live
They
tour.
were not.
I mean, they had generational money to start with, a lot of it.
Right.
It did make a lot of sense to me, and I was really, I'm really disappointed by this. I don't know how that affects Corn Ferry. you know, is it a segregate tour now? Is there a super tour and a regular tour and then a corn ferry?
Right.
How all this works, I'm really concerned about, but it's, I guess we'll just have to watch and see how it plays out. I look forward to watching this year. I don't know that I'm going to enjoy it next year.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know if I won't watch the regular tour, maybe bypass on the big tour. To me, they're exhibitions. They're more like exhibitions.
It's a member guest.
Yeah,
It's a member guest.
I don't.
You know.
I just don't understand that. I really don't. Let's switch gears. You told a great story about Mr. Palmer. Mr. Palmer was involved with this golf course, Musgrove Mill. It's his design,
Yep.
along with Mr. Shea.
Yep.
And or Say.
It's
And you had to have some great stories, you know, about that. As you know, you told one today on the 8th hole.
On 8 out there. You know, I was not here when I met Mr. Palmer when I was working at Westlake Country Club. He came in during the Masters one week, but he came up here and played 2 times. Landed his helicopter on the driving range out there and played before the place opened. So when it was really hard, you know, very difficult, and it's gotten more playable over the last 36 years. But you know, a lot of trees we used to have out here, and on hole number 8, which is about 380, 400 yard hole, played about 500 for us today. You know, but it was into the wind and it was soft fairways. Yeah. So, but there was a tree out there on the left side of the hole, and Mr. Palmer was playing with Randy Glover, who was the pro here then. And,
Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Carolina.
Best putter I've ever seen.
He could get the ball in the hole.
Yeah.
And Richard Lowry, who Richard was our greens chairman and committee up here. So the good thing about Musgrove is we don't have a lot of committees. They have single people that work with the people they hire to get the job done. So there was this tree on hole number 8 that Randy and Richard said, Mr. Palmer, this tree out here that's on the left-hand side, you know, you have to hook your ball around it on 8. And he said, we really don't like this tree. We think that tree should be taken out. So Mr. Palmer tees it up on the 8th tee, and he rips a little draw around there and hits it probably 140 yards from the green or 150 yards from the green. And that's back when, you know, we hit 8-iron and 7-iron from 150 yards. Right. You know, now they hit wedge. But so Mr. Palmer takes a 7-iron out of the bag and looks at the green, takes a shot, knocks the ball in the hole. Knocks the ball in the hole for a deuce. So they go up to the green, and he hadn't said anything about the tree. He picks the ball out of the hole and looks back towards the tee. And he said, Richard and Randy, he says, I don't think there's anything wrong with that tree. We're leaving it. We're leaving it.
Leave that tree.
Yeah, we're going to leave that tree. So, you know, that's one of the funny stories, you know, with Mr. Palmer being out here. And like I said, I didn't meet him when he was out here. I came here in 1996. So he had played 2 times up here, but you know, his favorite hole, if you look at any of his literature and all that stuff, is our hole number 7. Obviously the par 3 that goes over one of the 6 90-degree bends in the Enoree River down here, and he's very proud of that hole, which he should be, because it's a special hole.
That's a big
Great hole.
How about Mr. Palmer's story?
Well, the first thing you want to know after the redo, we did a redo at Spring Island, 5, 6, 7 years ago now? First thing you want to know is the tree on number 12 still there. Arnie's oak is what they call it, a live oak tree. Right. Love that tree. Just that's the first thing you want to know.
That's par 5?
Yeah, par 5. Great par 5. It wouldn't be very good if that tree wasn't there. Right. But that was the first thing he wanted to know. Is that tree still there?
Wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You guys are, you know, blessed to have had him around.
I was lucky.
He spent some time down more time there.
I think he spent a lot more time down at Spring Island, you know, with Billy and you, and then he spent up here because you know, he also did the reserve club up at Kiowee, or Kiowa, not Kiowee, but Kiowa, the reserve club at Kiowa.
Right.
So he spent some time up there also when he was building that.
Right.
Nice man.
He was the best.
The
I just
king.
met him
The
once.
king.
I only met him once.
Right.
Well, I had a nice talk with him at a polo advisory board meeting. I got a chance to sit with him for about 30 minutes at Bay Hill.
Nice.
And it was delightful.
We had a seniors tournament at Harbortown one of the years I was working there, and I don't remember who sponsored it or what, but we only had it one time, and Mr. Palmer played.
Yeah.
And I got to meet him then also.
Yeah. Legend.
So,
Freaking
I mean,
legend.
Yeah.
His hands
Wrap around my
were
head.
so strong.
Really.
And we get a magazine here because we're Palmer course. It's called The Kingdom, and it comes out like 4 times a year,
We get
every
that.
season.
Yeah.
And there's one issue that has got just his hands on the front of the cover, and his hands, the grip. I mean, just beautiful. I mean, it's just beautiful.
Exactly.
And to shake his hand.
Yeah.
He had some strength.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody said that. I remember. I was so. I don't remember. I shook his hand. Oh no, he was in a sling.
Oh, really?
Remember, a couple of years before he died, he was in a sling.
Okay.
And I had to. He had surgery on it, and I didn't get his. He
had to use his left hand.
Yeah, and it was a sad day that day. He was putting a dog down that day.
Oh, really?
You know, so it was.
So another story about the grip, real quick. Mr. Free, before he passed away,
Right.
came out to Spring Island. It's been 3, maybe a month ago, and me and Bill were talking to him, Bill Sampson, and one of the members, and he said he grabbed the golf club, and he started talking about the grip.
Mr. Furry was talking.
Mr.
Wow.
Free. So me and Bill Sampson are all over wanting to see him grip this golf club.
Sure.
Perfect, just like Mr. Palmer.
Right.
I mean, it fit in his hands so good. You know, it's unbelievable.
Well, I was going to kind of end with Mr. Furry. We just got word this past week he passed away, and he was like Mr. Palmer, a legend.
Right.
He was a phenomenal player, dear man to just hundreds of golf professionals in the Low Country. Mm-hmm. He was at the famed Long Cove Club. All along, he lived out there. He aligned himself with some other clubs, Colleton and Belfair and such, through the years. But we were really saddened to see him go. 91, lived a good life, and was in touch with Karen a couple of days before he passed. So I got to talk to him right before he 3 or 4 days before he passed, and got to thank him for all that he did. But he was just a magnificent individual, and I was telling a story earlier about him, and I'll share with you that Colleton River, he was at Colleton at the time representing them, and he at that particular time, this is the mid 2000s, 2004, 2005, they had a beverage cart girl there that was a 12 on a scale of 10.
I think I remember her.
Everybody in the Southeast knew this girl. I think she eventually married somebody in New York City or something, but I mean, she was a stunner. And so they're waiting beside a tee box, the 2 carts, and 4 guys are just sitting there. And she drives up, and so Jimmy gets up, and they'd known each other, and they're chatting, and he asked the other guys if they wanted anything. They said, no, we're fine. He said, well, I'll have a Diet Coke. And so she gets him a Diet Coke, and the boys see him pull a $50 bill out, and he gives it to her and just tells her to keep the change. And he chit-chats with her for a little bit more, and then she drives off. He comes back to the carts, and the boys are just on him, pounding on him. Yeah, we saw that, just heckling, giving him a hard time. One of them finally said, Jimmy, why in the world did you give her a $50 bill for a Diet Coke? And Jimmy goes, because I didn't have a $100 bill on me.
Because I didn't have a $100.
Mr. Jim Furry. It was an absolute legend, Jimmy Furry. So
I didn't get to know Jimmy that well, like you guys knew him in the Low Country, but he carried himself well and was.
Oh, dressed impeccably, just
Nice. I was his neighbor at Harbortown. Yeah, I lived
Really?
at Stony Creek Villas for a short time at Harbortown, and he was about 3 doors down. I had Dingus at the time,
yeah.
and every morning I'd walk
Bastard.
Dingus, and he'd be doing his workout. He's playing senior tour, I
Right.
guess, at that time.
And did well.
Yeah,
he did well. on
Yeah,
senior
and
tour.
I'd seen he'd be working out, and I'd be walking Dingus.
Well, he'll be greatly missed, and he was such a terrific ambassador for the game. That's the
Right.
Palmer was the king. You know, Jimmy would certainly have been an ambassador, and we'll miss him a great deal. But I just want to thank you boys for just having a quick sit. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We had a delightful day today.
Jeff, the golf course is wonderful.
That's
Joe.
Joe's first time.
Is it your first
Joe's
time?
first
playing?
time here.
ever.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
What a great golf course.
Thank you,
Bro, thank
Always
you.
Thank you.
We'll
very much.
we'll get back down
We'll
again.
do it again.
This
We'll
is a
do it
good
again.
midpoint for us. Joe,
Love you, man.
love you. Thanks
It was
for all you
fun.
did to foster the secession experience in those early days.
We had fun.
We had a lot of fun. We built something special there.
Had a lot. If
Something
I
very
could do
special.
it again, I'd do it.
To do it again.
I'd do it
I would
again.
too. I would too.
I hear you.
Guys, thanks for checking in with us.
Thanks,
We
y'all.
will we'll see you down the road somewhere else.
Love
So long.
y'all.
Thank you.